Hello, I am Citizen Sleeve, and welcome to the Game News. And we have a little bit of coolness for you today, so let's jump right into it. So, just announced, Bethesda, who of course were recently acquired by Microsoft, that'll probably be finalised in the next kind of 6 months or so, and Machine Games, who of course are part of Bethesda, the custodians and rebooters of Wolfenstein, have got the license to create from Lucasfilm, who are now again newly formed Lucasfilm Games, Indiana Jones. Coolness! I didn't think we'd see an Indy game. It's a license that's been dormant in the game world for quite a bloody long time. Now, all we've really seen, as you can see in this video, is a little teaser where we move across an Indy-esque table with maps and passports and stuff, and we see the Bethesda logo, we see Machine Games on the typewriter, and then we see that Lucasfilm logo on the old-style camera before the hat is picked up to reveal the whip. And I think that's a nice little nod to get people a little bit interested in what's to come. But I wouldn't expect this game to appear until the end of 2022, the start or middle of 2023. Can't be at all anywhere near in further development. It must be in the very early stages. Now, Indy has had an interesting kind of set of games in its history. Not loads, but an okay amount. The first ever one, if I recall, was Raiders of the Lost Ark on the Atari 2600. I can't remember it very well. I was much too young. Now, there was a lot of arcade games, stuff on the NES and the Commodore 64 and things like that. And then came the kind of LucasArts adventure games, and we got things like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which was a point-and-click, which I played back in the day with my brother, if I remember. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. And there was side-scrolling arcade games on the Super Nintendo. So there's kind of a little bit of variation there, but they've always been kind of similar. There was a rumoured indie game, 3D indie game. If I remember correctly, there was tech demos for it. And I'm sure it was originally developed by the guys who developed Buffy. I'm sure that was the idea. But I don't remember much about it. Oh, and of course the Lego games. It'll be very interesting to see what they do with this game, because Machine Head are essentially a first-person studio. Now, they rebooted Wolfenstein and did bloody good with it. They really, really did. Those, especially the two main games, like Old Blood was a bit smaller, but New Blood in particular, I think, and its sequel, were very, very good games. But they're first-person shooters, and that's very different for what you're going to try and establish, I would assume, with Indy. You're going to want a third-person action game in the guise of something like an Uncharted or the modern Tomb Raider reboots. Because that's essentially what Indy is. Indy is the archetype for that generation of these characters that we see now in these games. Although I'd say Nathan Drake and Lara Croft are probably far more violent as characters in what they end up doing, and they've become far more superhero-esque in the later parts of those games than you would ever get with Indy. So with an Indie game, I would expect you to see far less straight-up hardcore violence sequences. There'll be action, there'll be shooting, things like that, gunplay, third-person action, but I'd expect a lot of the focus to be on being in tombs, being in caves, being in underground environments and solving puzzles and getting treasures and unlocking stuff and things like that. Now, one of the other big questions is, will this game be exclusive to the Xbox? Now, on the one hand, you'd probably say no, because Disney, owning Lucasfilm Games, are going to want to make as much bloody money as they possibly can. And with a license like this, multiplat seems like a no-brainer. But then if you have that flip side and you think, well, look, Sony has the Spider-Man game. Now, I know they have that little thing with the films as well, and there's a licensing issues, and they've kind of taken that, and Marvel has allowed them to have the Spider-Man game just on the PS4 and PS5. So could you see a scenario then where Microsoft ends up having this as an exclusive in the same way just for the Xbox Series S and X and for the PC? Time will tell. I kind of think it's more likely to be multi-platform, but you never know. You never know. Bethesda is owned by Microsoft, or will be very, very soon. So could it be a full-on exclusive, or at least timed exclusive, just for the Xbox series of consoles? Hey, we'll see, I guess. But I just thought I'd jump in and get some news done, because this was a really interesting one, I thought. What do you guys think? When was the last time you played an indie game? Was it Lego games? Was it one of the adventure games? Even earlier with the platforming stuff? Are you interested? I mean, I'm a big indie fan. The first 3 films in particular, they lost their way completely with Kingdom of Crystal Skull. That's a terrible, terrible movie. We ignore that. We strike that from the record. And 2 has its problems, but I still do enjoy large portions of that film. And the other 2, obviously, I think Raiders and Last Crusade are absolutely marvellous films. So how do you capture that in the game? That's another problem. Because do you want Harrison Ford to come back? I can only guess that his performance as a voice actor in that sense, given his age and given how much he kind of reviles a lot of his older roles sometimes, he's probably going to be quite lackadaisical. I can't see him booting up with enormous energy and giving you the same feeling as the films had. So you're going to have to bring in someone who is a bit younger, who can pull off that voice, pull off that swagger and that style, and give it a little bit of a lease of life to make it feel like those older movies that gave us such a kind of warm, fuzzy, family-friendly action-adventure feeling back in the day. And there's plenty of awesome voice actors out there. I just hope they choose someone who's a little bit different than the kind of obvious ones that we see a lot. I love Troy Baker, and he's in a lot of stuff, but I think I'd prefer someone else to be, this kind of character, because he's played a lot of big characters across the industry. So that'll be very interesting as well. But I'm quite excited. I'm an indie fan. I like the idea of a good proper action adventure game, but with the indie ethos and the indie universe wrapping it up. So that'll be really, really good to see how this develops. It's going to be a long time before we see anything else, I think. This is just a little drop in the ocean for us to go, oh, that could be interesting. So we'll see what happens. But tell me in the comments, are you excited? What kind of game do you think it will be? How do you think Machine Head Games will tackle this? Do you think the game will be exclusive to Xbox, or do you think that's crazy and it will be a multiplat? And what are your expectations? What kind of things would you like to see in an Indiana Jones modernly created 3D adventure game? Which should be really fun. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching and listening. It is an absolute privilege to be able to make videos for you all. And in 2021, I intend to go at it. No more messing about. I'm going to crack on and do a bunch of stuff for you guys. And if you've got anything you would like me to try and do on the channel, game podcast, skits and sketches with random comedy voices, or breakdowns, or if you want me to bring back talking title screens, anything like that at all, any suggestions you've got, put them in the comments, because we want to build a community, right? We want to do stuff together and do stuff that you enjoy watching. I don't want to just do stuff for the sake of it. So if you want me to do certain things, chuck it in the comments. I'll have a gander and I will consider it. Now, if you liked the video, hit that like button. If you didn't like the video, hit that dislike button. And if you really want to support me, sub to the channel. Get involved, talk in the comments, really try and spread the word and get people involved in this lovely thing we call gaming. I'll also be covering TV series and TV episodes, films, all types of different media here and there. And we also have the Last Edit Film podcast over on my other channel. So go and check that out. That's with Silver and myself. And that's where we basically take an obscure often film and just deep dive it and do a nice, lovely, long, in-depth podcast about that particular film. Now, don't forget, you can also follow me on Twitch, Citizen Sleeve over there. Citizen Sleeve over on Twitter, Facebook, and the Instagram, as it were. But I'm probably most active on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching again. It's all kinds of appreciated, especially in this brand new year where a lot of us are just beginning again. Take it easy. I will see you very soon.